Hi, recently I wrote a blog post about culture and what culture means, and many people seem to think that in New Zealand we have Māori who have a definite culture and we're quite familiar with it, or some of us that live in New Zealand have some familiarity with Māori culture. And then there's the Pacifica nations that also have representatives here in New Zealand, and you ask the average Pākehā person or white European New Zealand person, whichever way you term yourself, and ask those people about culture, and they often will say we don't really have a culture. It's not as well defined perhaps as Māori or Pacifica people, but we definitely do have a culture. The environment in which we grew up, the people that we grew up with and who were our parents and those influences in our younger years, that's what forms our culture. The who we are, the what we believe in is formed in those early years, and that to me is your culture. So I've written a wee poem about my culture. My dad was English and met my mum at a dance, and she was a Kiwi lass. And so they went on from there to get married and have 4 children. And I've called this poem Cultural Confusion. And I hope you like it. Was it by fate or was it by chance? My dad met my mum and asked her to dance. Mum said he wore a horrid brown suit, but she still thought that he was quite cute. The young Kiwi lass and young Pommy Lad, they went on to marry, and 4 kids they had. Yes, one was a Kiwi and one was a Pom, with different ways where they came from. This Kiwi and Pommy family fusion would cause their daughter much confusion. Was she a Kiwi or was she a Brit? Was she perhaps 50-50 split? The sayings and words that her dad had used, at times they would leave her quite confused. There was a saying about apples and pears. How the heck would the answer be steers? The words they came from Cockney slang, and so in time she got the hang. And if you wanted to say have a look, the Cockney for this would be butcher's hook. But having a butcher's was the usual form. To drop the word hook was usually the norm. You may have heard too about porky pies. This was saying that you had told lies, but porkies was the shortened way for telling lies in what we say. And through our lives our dad would use the rhyming slang it would amuse. Not only was there Cockney rhyming slang, there were also silly songs that my dad sang. My Old Man's a Dustman was a funny song. I learned the words and then I'd sing along. Knees Up Mother Brown was bound to make us smile when randomly out of the blue was sung once in a while. My dad had many sayings, unlike a Kiwi dad. I always thought he made them up. I really thought he had. When I first met my husband, who also is a Pom, he would use a word and I'd ask where was it from. For all those years of childhood and many years beyond, the words my dad would use, of which I was so fond. I really thought he'd made them up in his very funny way, but then my husband told me, they're words that many say. It really burst my bubble when I heard him say, the words I thought were dad's were spoken every day. But here in my own country, most Kiwis did not use them. In fact, if I used rhyming slang, for most it would confuse them. So back to my first question, am I a Kiwi or a Brit? I am a bit of both of them, and both are a good fit. So culture really isn't the colour of your skin, or whether you might have a church to say your prayers in. It's the way you've been brought up, the inside little jokes, that can be quite confusing for many other folks. It is the stories that you tell, the words that you will know, the place you feel supported, the place you would go. Your culture is the things, the people and your home, that will always be there no matter where you roam. So that sums up for me what culture is in my eyes. Culture is your life experiences, the people that have influenced you, those that touched your lives as you grew up, that forms your personal culture. And so rather than saying that we have no culture as Pākehā or New Zealand European people, we all have culture because we have all had influences as we've grown up that are unique to our own situation. This has been Sue for Pākehs and me, my journey with Parkinson's. Kia kaha, be brave, be strong, be you.